The topic of today is startup issues, a very pertinent topic in the area of entrepreneurship and development. You must have come across the word entrepreneur in your daily life. According to a layman, any person starting a new business is an entrepreneur. But what does it really mean? Entrepreneur is a person who, on the basis of an innovative ideas, start a particular new venture. And this new venture is often known as a startup. Although the setting up of a startup takes a lot of hard work, lot of sacrifice, lot of extra efforts, but it is totally worth it because it involves number 1, sacrifice, number 2, working hard, number 3, working smart. Then of course you need to be a professional, you need to have building up your empire, and yes, I am a master of my own destiny and I am an entrepreneur. So with these words and this will envelop the concept of an entrepreneur. So I'll repeat once again, an entrepreneur is a person who starts up with his own work, with his own hard work, with his own sacrifice, and we say, I sacrifice, then there is hard work, I am a professional, I am building my own empire, I am a master of my own destiny, and I am an entrepreneur. So these words are so important and enveloping that if you combine all these words together, we call it as an entrepreneur, and we call it as the venture which they are going to start is a startup. Now we'll start with the concept of innovation, the core aspect of a startup. More important things that defines any startup is the innovative idea on the basis of which it is formed. So when you have to start with your own concept of a startup by an entrepreneur, you need to have, the first thing which you need to have is an innovative idea. So innovation, a new idea, is the one thing which is the stepping stone and the starting point of an entrepreneurship. It is the source of any startup. That is, without any kind of an innovative idea, one cannot simply enter into the market and start doing anything. So the first thing and the foremost thing and the most pertinent thing which is required to start is an innovative idea, which is definitely a new one. So it stands at the heart of a startup, that is the innovative idea. A good innovation idea which has the ability to capture the market can be one of the most important factor for the success of a business. So a good idea along with some good implementation of the same can make a venture turn into a success. So the first thing which we require is an idea. That is, you have to scan the market, you have to look around, you have to analyze, and you have to deeply study the environment which is surrounding us, and all these things, be it a partnership, be it any kind of a business, be it a competition, be it a competitor, be it even the religious institute. These are the sources of the ideas, the legislatives, the political environment, the legal environment. So these things, if you gauge them, you will definitely draw some kind of a innovative idea. So that is the starting point of a startup. So after you have the idea, an idea is very innovative, idea is very novel. So the next thing which you require is a good idea along with some good implementation of the same, because certain ideas are not implementable, certain ideas are not workable, certain ideas are not viable. So the things which you require is a good implementation of the good idea which you have thought about, and the same can make a venture turn into a success. So if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, first you have to work upon the innovative idea. The innovative idea behind is, the idea behind an innovative idea is that nobody has done before. So you need to have a pioneering work, if you need to have a good work, if you need to have a new and a novel work, the ideas can really change your life. So after you have gauged a good idea, the next is that how you have to implement that idea. So some good implementation of the thought process, the ideas which you have gathered, which you have gauged, which you have thought about, you have to see the parameters which are very closely related to the implementation part. So if they are good enough, then you must carry on with that venture. Otherwise, you have to rework upon your ideas, because certain ideas are not workable and they're not viable. So viability, the practical aspects of the ideas are most important things which you have to keep in mind. Now we are coming on to a very important topic, that is the role of a business incubator for the growth of the startups. It is very interesting to know that all startups, they do not have a success stories. Some startups, they are immediately they are meeting the failures. So because there could be some problem with the ideas, or there could be some problems with the implementation part. So now we are trying to gauge that what particular role the business incubators are playing as far as the growth of the startups are concerned. A business incubator is a company that helps the new and the startup companies to develop and basically to provide the services such as the management, training, or the office space. The entrepreneurs have to apply for the admission to enter into the business incubation program. The acceptance varies from case to case and is generally based on the feasibility part of the business idea. Some of the business incubators, they take the equity stake in the client company, but most of them do not. Incubators, they help the startups by providing them a variety of services like the marketing research, the access to the business loans, the loan funds, the access to the venture capital, the angel investors, and help with the regulatory compliance. So we are now discussing upon the business incubator role as far as the startup is concerned. So the startups, they actually need some kind of a help, and that particular help is given by the business incubators. The business incubators, they envelop, they guide, they help the startups in the varied fields so that they are not left behind. They become a market leader. They are able to cope up with the challenges. They are able to cope up with the marketing problems. They are able to cope up with the financial problems, the venture capital, etc. So I am going to talk about certain key points on the basis of which the startups are helped by the business incubators. The first is the marketing research. The marketing research is a business strategy which gives you all the in and outs of the business competitors in the market, the various products which are there in the market, with whom you have to compete, what are the present range, the market price, the market returns, the market leaders, the market laggers. So the marketing research output is very important for any kind of a startup, because that gives you a beginning point, and also could be it also helps you in making the business strategy so that you are able to compete in the market. Now you have to access to the business loans and the loan funds. Everyone knows that whenever you have to start up with any kind of a business, you need to have the finances with you, and that is the life-giving blood to the business. So getting the loans these days, sometimes it has both aspects. Certain loans are easy to get and certain loans are difficult to get. So you have to work upon your business loans, because you do not have the requisite funds with you. In any case, you need the funds from the banks, and of course the incubators will help you in designing your business strategies as far as taking of the loans from the banks are concerned. Then you have to have the access to the venture capital and the angel investors. So the risk capital has to be managed, the angel investors have to be managed. So this kind of a help is extended by the business incubators. So if you want to be a market leader, you need to have the help from the incubators. So incubators are one which have a vital and a pertinent role in formation part of any kind of a startup. And these kind of help, the business incubators which they give to the startups, is very essential for them to get, because otherwise they will not be able to compete in the market, they will not be able to penetrate into the market, and they won't be able to become the market leaders as well. So there are other lot of regulatory compliances which the startups have to make. So all the the kind of help which you want for the regulatory aspect also are also given by the business incubators to the startups. Now we are coming on to the concept of a small and a medium exchanges in India. For facilitation of raising of funds by these startups, the stock exchange have set up their own small and medium exchanges through which the startups can raise the money without the complying with the stringent conditions for raising the money through the main board. So these kind of the small and the medium exchanges, they are also extending some kind of a good help in raising of the money part, the compliances also and the stringent conditions also by the startups. So it becomes easier for them if they contact these small and medium exchanges in India, because they always give a lot of good help as far as the raising of the funds is concerned under the stringent conditions through the main board. So these exchanges, the securities through these exchanges, that is small exchanges, the securities issued by these startups are regulatory trade on the SME exchanges, thus building reputation of the business and making it easier for them to raise capital. So overall, the government, it is also taking various steps so that the new ideas of the startups does not remain ideas and are implemented for the particular growth of the economy. So let us start up with a major difference between a successful and an unsuccessful startup. So we started with the concept of a business idea, the novel idea, which is the the starting point of any kind of a startup. And we also understood about the incubator part. The incubators, they extend a lot of good services to them. Then we talk about the small and the medium exchanges in India. They are also there to extend the financial help as far as the raising of the capital is concerned. So now let us start with the major differences of after getting all these kind of help and its successful market research, etc., that what is the basic difference between a successful and an unsuccessful startups. The small and the medium exchanges in India, the first is a PayPal. It is a successful startup of the 90s. The PayPal was one of the successful startups of the late 1990s. Their growth story involves going from 1 million users in March 2000 to 5 million users in summer 2000. So see the immense changes in the networking part. They started activating the users by paying them to sign up. With every sign up, the PayPal paid you $20 to sign up, and also the $20 for a referral. As the value of their network grew, they reduced the bonus to $10, $5 and eventually nothing. This was a very classic example of activating the users by giving an incentives to them. Now what is a PayPal? PayPal is used as a very good method of giving people a reason to start using their platform. Although this story seems to be very motivating, but surely the company had to go through a lot of good hard work to achieve such a phenomenal growth. And now let us see the case study of a unsuccessful startup. So you have seen the phenomenal growth as far as the successful startup is concerned, which we took the example of a PayPal, that how the users increased and what specific changes they made to make a success story as far as the startup of PayPal is concerned. Now is the time to see the story of an unsuccessful startup. So we will start with the example of a soft card. With the backing of AT&T, T-Mobile's version, it was attempt to compete a mobile payment firms, that is a PayPal and a Google Wallet. The app would enable the customer's smartphone to be their banker in all the regular Sears and Reeboks. the customer's obedience in carrying a smartphone everywhere would be utilized for more swift payment at a regular goods and services at a point of sales location equipped with NFC. Now we are coming on to the reasons of why this particular startup, which is called as a soft card, failed. So now we are trying to reason out that why this particular soft card company failed. So the limited reach and deviating the initial decided the path, poor marketing tactics, no education to customers, better future with Google. So here we can see those how the two startups of the similar nature and how one of the most successful payment wallet and the other a big failure. So we have to contract the problems of a startup. Now we are coming on to a concept called pre-incorporation contracts. Setting up of a business requires the entrepreneur to enter into various contracts even before the business has started its commercial activity. Such contracts are known as pre-incorporation contracts. For example, let us assume Mr. X is starting an online payment gateway application. So before he starts with the launching and the working of the app, he needs to enter into a contract with the various banks, the marketing agencies, the book runners, so that he is able to start up the business in a well settled manner and also comply with the law. Thus to conclude that I would say that starting up of a new business isn't a child's play, and one needs to do the market research. You have to plan your operations well in advance to make it successful. So it is not a toy story, it is not everyone's problems. So there are a lot of problems and it's not a child's play to start with a startup. You have to do diligently all kind of work, you have to scan the market, you have to do a marketing research, you have to be very particular about the operational part, and of course only then the things would be successful. Now as mentioned above, the contract problem may occur due to various reasons. However, a contract problems of a startup enterprises are often not so simple. For example, a startup owner does not know how to express a family and a friend that he wishes that he had a contract. Thus, a contract problem could exist for a number of unusual reasons. This could be including a situation such as a poor knowledge and understanding about a contract formation or a management, the lack of a legal notice and advice, the lack of experience in forming the contracts, and the term and the conditions of the contracts are not very clear and are open to a misrepresentation. The expectations for the contract are not realistic or well defined. The performance of a contract is not monitored, discussed and documented. Establishing a contract but not having a suitable process in place to support the management of a contract, and of course the communication problems. So all these things are very pertinent to understand. Not only this, not making a clear deal with a co-founder or a promoter could be one factor. Not coming up with the great standard form contract in favor of your enterprise could be another. Not complying with the securities law when issuing the stocks to the angels and the family and the friends, and of course not carefully considering the protection of IP assets, and of course the ignorance of the tax issues. Now making a solid business contract. It is worthwhile noting that the contract is enforceable and successful. It is written. Agreement should be in a written even if the law does not require. A written agreement is less risky than the oral because all the terms and the conditions and all the pertinent issues are always in a written form. It is simple also. Then of course you have to create a very clear and a short sentences with very simple numbered paragraphs, headings that alert the leader to what is into the paragraph part. Now, making a solid business contract, there is no dispute and surprises. You have to identify each party correctly and deal with the right person or authorized person. The supplier is cooperative and responsive, and the organization understands its obligations under the contract. Clearly specify the terms and the conditions and the most important payment obligations. You have to specify the circumstances under which the agreement can be terminated. You have to specify how the disputes will be resolved through mediation, arbitration, or through the court. Each party keep promising that the business information will be kept confidential, encouraging an ongoing and open line of communication between the parties, and always seek advice, assistance, or clarification when it is needed. Now we are talking now on the standard form of a contract. You have to get sample contracts of what other people do in the industry. There is no need to be reinventing a contract. You have to make sure you have an experienced business lawyer doing the drafting part, and of course one that already has good forms to start up with. You have to make sure to make it look like a standard form, the pre-printed contract with definitely a typeface and a font size. Don't make it so ridiculous, long, that the other side will throw up their hands when they see it. So you have to make sure that you have a very clear spell out the pricing part, and when the payment is due, and what penalties and interest is owed if the payment isn't made. So you have to be loud and clear about the terms and the conditions. You have to try and minimize or negate any representation and the warranties about the product or a service. You have to include the limitations on your liability, and if the products or service doesn't meet the expectations. You have to include a force majeure clause relieving you from the breach if the unforeseen events occur. And of course, you have to include a clause also that how the disputes will be resolved. So a recourse and the dispute resolution mechanism has to be properly mentioned. Our preferences is definitely for confidential binding arbitration in front of an arbitrator. So now we are coming to the funding opportunities for the startups. Every startup needs the funds. So what are the funding opportunities for the startups? Let us have a look on this. What is funding? First of all, funding is basically providing the financial resources to the finance need program, etc. The project funding is generally done by the government or a sponsor, and of course it usually involves a less cost wherever the term financing means a raising capital with the expectation to repay with the returns of X interest. Then we come on to the personal savings. The first place an entrepreneur should look for the money is his or her own personal savings. It is most important source of equity capital for starting a business. The outside lenders, investors expect the entrepreneurs to put some of their own capital into the business before the investing their own. Then we are coming on to the funding opportunities for the startup angels. The angels are generally wealthy individuals or retired company executives who invest directly into the small firms owned by the others. They are often the leaders in their own field who not only contribute their experience and the network of the contracts, but also they are the technical and the managerial knowledge also, and the management knowledge also. In turn for risking their money, they reserve the right to supervise the company's management practices. The funding opportunities for the startups. In concrete terms, this often involves a startup on the board of directors and an assurance of transparency. There's a bootstrapping, that is a self-funding from your own savings. If you have it, is definitely always preferred. What are the particular advantages relating to the aspects relating to bootstrapping? No time going hand in hand to investors, and you don't have to relinquish any kind of control in the company. This is one of the biggest advantage. Now coming on to the loans or the credits. If your company needs only a temporary or a small infusion of cash, try for some small business administration loan which is offered at a lower rate of interest because it is generally guaranteed by the government or a bank line of a credit. Now the next concept is a crowdfunding. The crowdfunding is a use of small amount of capital from a large number of individuals to finance a new business venture. The crowdfunding makes use of the easy accessibility of the vast networks of the people through the social media and the crowdfunding websites to bring the investors and the entrepreneurs together. The crowdfunding has a potential to increase the entrepreneurship by expanding the pool of investors from whom the funds can be raised beyond the traditional circle of the owners, the relatives, the venture capital, and example is patrons, etc. Early stage business can consider incubator and accelerator program as a funding option found in almost every major city. And these programs definitely they assist the hundreds of these startups businesses every year, and though they are used interchangeably. Now coming on to the business incubators and the accelerators. There are few fundamental differences between the two terms. The incubators are the parent to a child who nurture the business, providing the shelter, tools and training and a network to a business. Whereas if you see the other side of it, that is the other term accelerator. What does it mean? The accelerators so more or less the same thing, but an incubator helps, assists, nurtures a business to walk, while accelerators helps to run, take a giant leap. So this is the difference between the two. The accelerator is giving a memento to take a biggest leap ever, whereas the business incubators, they assist, they protect the business like a child, like a parent who nurtures the business, providing shelters to them, tools and travels to them, training to them and giving a network to them. So overall assistance of having a good survival is given by the business incubators, whereas if you already are protected, if you are already in the race and to accelerate your business, the role of the accelerator starts because it helps you in taking a giant leap as far as the business startups are concerned. These programs, they are normally run for 4 to 8 months. They require the time commitment from the business owners. You will also be able to make a good connections with the mentors, with the investors and with the other fellow startups using this particular platform. Now we are coming on to the small business grants. The Government of India has launched 10,000 crore startup fund in the Union Budget 2014 and 15 to improve the startup ecosystems in India. In order to boost the innovative the product companies, the government has launched the Bank of Ideas and the innovation programs. The government backed Trade Mantri Micro Unit Development and Refine Agreement Limited, that is Mudra, startup with an initial corpus of 20,000 crores to extend the benefits to around 10 lakh SMEs. You are supposed to submit your business plan on an approved and the loan gets sanctioned. You get a mudra card, which is like a credit card, which you can use to purchase the raw material and other expenses, etc. The Shishu, Kishore and Tarun are three categories of loans available under the promising scheme. Then of course, the first thing is given by SIDBI, the Small Industry Development Bank of India offers the business loans to the MSME sector. And if you comply with the eligibility criteria, the government grants are as funding options could be one of the best. And you must need to make yourself aware of the various government initiatives. The Policy Bazaar is India's online insurance aggregator. The company was formed in 2008 and headquartered at Gurgaon, Haryana. The company began operations in 2008 as a key force in establishing a particular informative online financial services platform in India, and over the last 9 years, the company has marked a strategic growth and a staggering growth in terms of the consumer traffic. In March 2013, the company hosted its first round of funding and it raised $4.6 million from Intel Capital, an investment firm, and Incubators Capital Partners. Then after a month, the second round of funding happened and the event was led by Incubators Capital Partners. Now we are coming on to a case study of a Policy Bazaar. The company has raised about $5 million in this round from Investors Capital Partners, Info, Edge and Intel Capital. And in March 2014, the company raised about $20 million in the third round of funding, which is led by a Tiger Global Management. Then in April 2015, the Series D fourth round led by Premji Invest, a Policy Bazaar, raised a $40 million of funding from Premji Invest, the Tiger Global Management, the Ribbit Capital, the Steepview Capital and ABG Capital. No business can take off without the monetary support. The finance is needed to fund a purchase of a land, plant and machinery equipment, construction of a factory, purchasing of a technology know-how, the payment of the wages, purchasing of a raw material, consumables and other manufacturing and administrative expenses. Broadly, the need for the finance in any of the enterprise can be classified into the following types: the long and the medium term financing, the short term and the working capital financing, the seed capital or the marginal money, the bridge loans, the risk financing. Thus, infusion of money is needed in every stage of the business and perhaps every activity of the business, and that is why it is quite complicated to crack the problem of raising of the finances. The challenges of raising a seed capital. The first is it is highly risky. The second is it is fragmented marketplace. The third is it is a lack of well convinced market plan, the lack of a clear sale, the lack of a clear marketing strategy, the over highly qualified investor base, the growing demand of a seed capital in the market. Now we are looking on to the challenges in raising of a seed capital. The first is a regulatory problem. At the same time, there are many creative options of finances which are available for starting a new business that you might have to find when buying a car, taking a home or major consumer items. Basically, the three sources of finances are available for financing a new business. The challenges of raising a seed capital, the first is the equity financing. The equity financing basically refers to the sale of an ownership interest to raise the finance for the business need. The investors share in the profits of the business as well as any deposition of its assets on a pro rata basis based on a percentage of the business owned. Popularly, we call it as equity financing options, etc. Now, we are discussing the challenges of raising the capital. The first is a personal savings. The second is a home equity loans. The fourth is a government grants. Then we have the IPOs. Then we have the life insurance policies, friends and relatives, followed by angel investors, followed by equity offerings and the warrants. The second is your debt financing. The debt financing involves the borrowing the funds from the creditors, which could be secured or unsecured, with the stipulation of repayment of the borrowed funds plus interest at a specific future time, short term or a long term, popular debt financing options, etc. Then we have the relative and the friends and the banks and the other commercial lenders, a wide variety of the financial institutions including the development banks like IDBI, Small Industry Development Bank of India, that is SIDBI, IFCI, IIBI, specialized financial institutions like IVCF, ICICI Venture Capital Funds, TFCL, etc. offer the financial help. The commercial finance companies, the state finance companies, that are 18 SFCs in the country, each one offers its own scheme for potential entrepreneurs. Then we have the bonds, then we have the government programs. The Government of India has launched 10,000 startup fund in the Union Budget 2014-15 to improve the startup ecosystem in India. Added to this, there are a number of policies and the programs to support a startup business in India. Some of the notable are Bank of Ideas and Innovation Program, Pradhan Mantri Micro Unit Development and Refinance Agencies, that is the Mudra, the Startup India Action Plan, etc. The Credit Guarantee Fund Scheme, the Market Development Assistance Scheme for MSMEs, the National Equity Fund Scheme, the Microfinance Program, Equity Finance Scheme, Mahila Udyan Nidhi, that is MUM, the Single Window Scheme, and a typical leading creative used in the debt financing. Then we have the challenges in raising a seed capital. The first is a cash flow, the ability to repay the loan with the cash. Second is your collateral, the value of internal and external securities that may be liquidated. Then we have a character or personality, aspects about the business owner which lead you to believe in the credit worthiness. Then we have a commitment, that is the financial commitment by the owner in the business venture. Then we have a lease finances. A lease is a method of obtaining the use of assets for the business without using a debt or the equity financing. It is a legal agreement between the two parties that specifies the terms and the conditions for the rental use of tangible resources like a building, and equipment. The lease payments and are often due annually. The agreement is usually between a company and leasing or financing organization and not directly between the company and the organization providing the assets. While lease ends, the asset is returned to the owner, the lease is renewed, or the asset is purchased. The raising financing for the new business venture is one of the first hurdles that an entrepreneur may face. Many entrepreneurs, they commit mistakes in their fundraising strategies by falling into the understand the differing needs of the investors or the lenders. Therefore, it is important to understand what factors are important for the investors, lenders in the process of financing a new business venture. Generally, the investors, lenders are interested about the following aspects of a new business: industry, that is the type of a business; geography, that is the location of a business, the scalability, that is ability to keep a pace of changing conditions, that is the demand, technology, etc., the stage of the business, that is the concept or the expansion, the type of preferred capital structure, the return on investment that is expected. Then we have a liquidity, quantum of risk, availability of the capital under management. The lenders as a rule are not interested in your vision for a greater business, and they are solely interested in the risk management and the capacity of your own business to repay the credit that may advance to you. What is needed to attract the investors and the lenders? The strategies to exploit the funding opportunities is the next topic. A feasible business idea, a solid business plan, a good economic model, a skilled management team, and of course, a powerful marketing strategy. A growing market, a modern technology, the product service according to customers' need, management of IP assets, and apart from this, an entrepreneur must use the following tactics to exploit the funding opportunities and making of the fundraising process more effective and more efficient. Now we are coming on to a very pertinent topic of today, that is the strategies to exploit the funding opportunities. The startup should not be fooled by seed series search. Even if you have the success finding seed investments, believing they are securing future rounds of funding will be just easy is a painful false assumption. You have to be patient and choose only the investor who have the experience, the resources, the willingness to help in the future rounds of fundraising. The startups should make a certain that they raise funding to a proper confrontation operations of the business, start up with a low target and increase in the round off if needed, allow the market bid if you have a startup. The startups will always be planning and looking to the future, and do not get distracted by the time, by the energy, by the resource consuming funding cycle, etc. Stay focused on growing the business, achieving success and leading your team. The marketing plan for the startup. Most startup funding enterprises understands and realize the importance of a business plan, which basically outlines the entrepreneur's course of action to attain its objectives. One crucial element of the plan is marketing plan, strategy, etc. Because the strategy is buried in the larger business plan, it may start up, the owners may not give up their own names, efforts, research and attention it deserves, assuming that they know their customers and how to reach them. Therefore, the marketing aspect of new business venture should be explored and analyzed in a broader perspective to exploit the market opportunities. It is most basic marketing plan provides a holistic view of the entrepreneur marketing strategy. Now, it can be defined as a process of determining a very clear, comprehensive approach to the creation of the customers, that is retaining the existing customers as well as generating a new customer. The following elements are very critical in developing a marketing particular plan, out of which the first is brief description of the products and the services offered by the new business, marketing goals and objectives, define the target market, major strengths and weaknesses, major opportunities and threats, positioning statements and the marketing analysis. Situation analysis, market segmentation, market strategies and the tactics, that is the product, price, promotion and place. Outside the factors, the government policies, economic, technological, cultural and demographics. The legal changes, that is the tax rates, standards and the government rates, the marketing budget and the control center, the matrix and the adjustments. Now we are coming on to the outlines of an effective marketing plan. A good marketing plan spells out all the tools and the tactics that will be used by the entrepreneurs to the achievements. In fact, it is a plan of the action, what you will sell, to know you will be sell at what price and to what place, and they are, the customers should buy, and all the strategies to increase the customer base and the boot sales. Thus, the marketing plan should be devised to meet certain criteria. Some important points that must be incorporated in an effective marketing plan are as follows. It should be based on the facts and the real valid assumptions. Detail specific activities you intended to undertake. Identify your target audience or the customers. Specify your marketing objectives. Identify your competitions and comprehend their strategies. Define your own competitive advantage. Situation analysis is very crucial for an effective marketing plan, and sometimes the organized restricting is needed to implement the marketing plan. The rational allocation of resources. You have to develop the marketing strategies, tactics, you will always be achieving your objectives. You have to set up the marketing budget. You have to be very flexible enough to allow the changes or the adjustments if they are necessary. You have to fix the responsibility points or the center for each activity. You have to specify how you are going to measure the success of the marketing plans. Now we are coming on to the organizational plan for the startup enterprises. The organizational plan describes the organization, immediate and the long-term objectives, and the details how to organize will accomplish these objectives. Comprehensive business plan should integrate all of the plan, including the operational, financial, marketing, manpower, strategic investment, risk and other crisis management. The scope of the organizational plan is very wide. Organizational plan comprises of the following elements. The first is the goal. It includes both the official and the operative goals. The Peter Drucker has identified 8 key criteria and the areas which the organization should be able to establish the goals. The first is the market share. The second is the innovation, productivity, profitability, physical and the financial resources, followed by the management, performance and development, employees' performance and attitude, and the social responsibilities. The strategies, it includes all courses of actions and benchmarking a business intends to take up the accomplished organization's objectives, etc., and it includes the following: the corporate strategy, the functional strategy, the diversification strategy, technological and innovation strategy, cooperative strategy, business strategy, growth strategy, vertical integration strategy and a global strategy. Now the organizational plan for the startup enterprise. The first is your action. It includes detailed description of the key actions which you have undertaken to implement each strategy. Some of the most important things are listed below: the change management communication, time management, resource management, conflict management, the deadlines and the time frame. It describes the time due date for completion of each action. Resources, it deals with the acquisition and allocation of resources. It generally includes the financial resources, the human resources, the physical resources, intellectual, technological resources, management resources, etc. The second is your structure. It basically deals with how power, responsibility and the jobs are structured, organized within the organization industries. The organizational plan for the startup enterprise. The first is the division of work into activities. You have to decide the hierarchy, authority, responsibility structure, authority relationships, complexities, formalization, centralization and the decentralization. The performance measures, it deals with how you will measure the organizational performance. Generally, following the measurement tools are used to measure the performance: the benchmarking, the standards, the control points and the balance scorecard. So the risk management, when you talk about, it includes the strategies, techniques to manage the risk, and basically the communication, when you talk about, it describes how to plan, strategize to the system communicated to the maximum benefits. That is, you talk about the communication objectives, the target audience, the frequency of communication, the resources of communication, the periodic, the print publication, online communication, meeting, etc. So with these, I hope the concept of organizational plan and the startup is very clear to all of you. So to start up, to take care of the startup, you have to, when you are starting up a new business, you have to take that particular business like a small baby. Give them all kind of protections which are supposed to be given by the incubators. You have to keep tracking your performance, you have to keep tracking your risk, you have to be very particular about the operational part, the financial part, and I hope with the taking of all the basic steps, your startup will be a successful venture for you. So with these words, I thank you so much.